problematic teens. Dr. Chika just told us about substances, about depression. We're talking about the problems that are not really mental illness, but they affect teenagers, especially you guys, especially. I'm going to start with a story. Story. Once upon a time. So listen to my story. Yeah, this story has a moral that is going to encapsulate everything I'm going to be teaching you today. Once upon a time, there were 5 blind men, blind from birth. They've never seen in their lives. Okay? And they all happen to be siblings. So 5 blind brothers. Are you following? And there's one thing they've always wanted to see. They wanted to see an elephant. They've heard about elephants. You know, they were blind from birth, so they've never seen an elephant. They've heard an elephant is big, an elephant is huge, it has a tusk, it has a tail, it has big legs. And they always say to themselves, I wish I could see an elephant. So one day, they got a helper, someone to take them to the zoo. And the zookeeper was so kind that he allowed them to come close to an elephant and even touch an elephant since they couldn't see it, right? So the 4 of them went to different parts of the elephant and they were touching. So one person touched the tail and said, an elephant is long like a snake. The second person touched the tusk, the tusk, and said, an elephant, wow, it's like a rock. Another person touched the legs and said, wow, this is like a tree. Were they all correct? Were they correct? They were wrong, yeah? But that is their perception. That is the way they saw it. Neither of them saw the whole elephant. Do you understand? We're going to be talking about perception. What you believe. It might be true, it might not be true, but it affects the way you see things. Okay? So, next slide. The essence of this lecture, 30 minutes lecture, is because I want you to understand the problems you guys face. I want you to know how to handle them, know what to do. That's the problem. I want this summit to be useful to all of you. Do you all want that? You want that? Yeah, so do I. Next slide. So I'm going to be using this outline. Pastor Lane, I need you. I'm going to introduce this topic. You already heard what mental health is, so I'll rush over these slides. You know what a teenager is, We're going to talk about why you are at risk. Did you ask yourself, why did they say mental health for teens? Why didn't they say for primary school or children? Why didn't they say for any group? It's because there's something special about you guys. And that is, you guys are the group of people that are targeted and you're at risk not because of the age you're in. We'll talk about that more. And then what we can do, what are the signs, how can you cope? Alright? Next slide. So, mental health. We've talked about mental health, right? Your question there. Mental health. Mental health is the summary, the sum total of your state of well-being, how you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself and other people, how you interact socially with your peers and with other people, and how that affects your productivity. So according to WHO, state of well-being in which an individual realizes these are our own abilities. So you see yourself in a positive light, in a balanced way. You know you have strengths, you know that you have weaknesses. And because of that, you're able to cope. So when the exams come, you don't feel like, I can't pass. Even if you feel like that for a bit, you study and you pass. And because you have a balanced way of seeing yourself and how you feel about yourself, you're able to positively contribute to the community. So the way you relate to your friends is in a healthy way, in a healthy, balanced way. Next slide. So mental health is, go back. Yeah. Mental health is just as important as physical health. So a lot of times we hear a lot about, physical health, take one expeller, eat well, eat balanced, don't smoke, don't take substances, great stuff, right? But the way you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself is also very important. Because if you feel okay about yourself, you'll take care of your body, won't you? Yes. Yeah. You take care of your hair, you look nice, you eat right. But if you don't think about yourself in a balanced way, you think you're ugly, not smart, can't meet up, you might not even eat. So mental health, physical health, they're like two sides of a coin. Next slide. So you guys know who teens are, don't you? Who is a teenager? Who is a teenager? You don't know who teenagers are? Who's a teenager? Real quick. Yeah, perfect. She said teenagers are anyone between the ages of 13 and 19. We'll just go on. The reason why we are having this summit for teens especially, it's not like other people don't have problems with their mental health, but it's because there's something special about how you guys are evolving, the stage of life you're in. You are in transit. You are moving from a kid to an adult. And that process of transition, you all know about puberty, right? Yes, so that's all about the changes in your body. But hello? It's not only your body that's changing, your mind is changing too. The way you see things. I once told he was small then, he was 5 then, about the story of Jonah and the whale. The Christians will know about Jonah and the whale, right? You know the story, right? So at the end of the day, the whale swallowed Jonah. And I said, what is the moral of the story? And he said, he was a kid then, he's a big boy now. He said, if you disobey God, a whale will swallow you. Is he right? No. Anyway, so that is, you transit from thinking in a childish way, like what my son said, to thinking in a more abstract way. You know the principle. When you do stuff, there are consequences. So the transition is in your mind, in your feelings, and in the way you relate. So all of a sudden, parents are not so important to you as they used to be when you were kids. It's now all about your peers. So you see, it's not just your body that is growing. Your mind, the way you feel, and who is important in your life. Parents, we love being the center of attraction, but we realize after some time, we are not as important as we want to be, and then your peers become important. This is the reason why we're having this summit for you guys, because the problems that you face, changing not only your body, but in your thinking, in your emotions, and how you relate, is almost like, it's like someone driving through a bumpy road. So you can drive the bumpy road and have a flat tire. You can drive the bumpy road and have your car even stop, but because the road is bumpy. So that is how it is for you transiting from being kids to being an adolescent. Next slide. So teens are at risk for a lot of things. You see this my slide? You can see the circle, right? Can you guys see from that corner? Yeah. So this is you. Can you see it? No? Okay, let me try and explain for those that can't see. So imagine that this is your life as a child, an infant, a baby, and then you become older. The age, you're older, right? Yeah. And this is self-esteem. How much worth you think you are worth. How you see yourself. Like whether you believe in yourself, you think you're worthwhile, you think you're lovable. So, when you are really young, and this is a study that is not only in Nigeria, this is worldwide. They took many teens, boys and girls, and they looked at the way they see themselves as they grew older. So when they came to teens, became teenagers, what happened to their self-esteem? What happened? Did it go up? It went down. It was up before, then as they became teenagers, it went down. So this is for girls. Don't mind the colors. I was looking for one that had red for girls, but that didn't come. This is for boys, this is for girls. So it's lower for girls than for boys. But then when they get older, what happens to self-esteem? What happens? It rises. So it is for this reason, because we medical people, we know this is coming. And thanks to the foundation that sponsored all this, this is why they said, you know what, let's prepare these guys, let's get them ready for what is coming. So that they don't, because of their predisposition to low self-esteem, don't run into trouble like in a bumpy road. Next slide. So, one major thing that makes people feel good about themselves is how beautiful they look. Can you hear me, guys? Hello? It's how attractive they feel they are. The concept of beauty. beauty. It's a key thing that determines the way people see themselves, especially young people. So I actually did a study on this, on you guys, and I found this to be true. This is not just some statistic in far away wherever. This is happening even in our country. That you young people feel like if I'm not handsome or pretty, then I'm not worth much. So I'm here to explain to you that there's a difference between how you see yourself, what you think about yourself, and how you really are. There's a difference between your image, your body image, and your appearance. Have you ever heard someone that said, my nose is so big, my nose is huge, like my whole face is nose, or any other part of their body, forehead, ears, mouth, and in their mind, just like those blind men, they are seeing only one aspect, and they're like, I'm so ugly because my nose is so big. And you're like, your nose is not that big, I hardly even noticed it. But in their mind, they feel like when they walk into a room, the first thing you see is their nose. That is body image. It may not be true, that's the point. You see the story with the blind men? Each of them were convinced because of the part of the elephant they felt. But neither of them was correct because they didn't see the whole picture. So sometimes you might think something, believe it so strongly, and it might not really be true. Next slide. So we're talking about mental health problems versus illness. What's the difference? So mental health illness is when you have difficulties with the way you think about yourself or other people, the way you feel about yourself or other people, and how you behave, to the point that it's really affecting your life and it's bothering you so much. If it's bothering you just a little bit, like, oh, my makeup, oh, my hair, oh, my hair, I want to do a beautiful style, the latest style, I want to wear the latest style, that's fine. We're all a bit conscious about how we look. But when it's to the point where maybe you are late for a class and you will not leave until you fix your hair, even when you miss the class, you don't mind, then it becomes a problem. Do you understand? That is the difference between a problem, mental health problem, and a mental health illness. It's an illness when it's affecting your life. Your school, ability to study, ability to relate with your friends, and it's just making you really, really unhappy. If it makes you unhappy a little bit, yeah, that's fine, we get unhappy sometimes. But when it's really ruling your life like an obsession, then it's a problem. Next slide. So the problems we're going to be talking about, there are 6 of them. I have 30 minutes, so I'm going to be really fast. But I know you're smart kids, you'll keep up. But if you have any question, please write it down. 6 of these mental health problems that are common in people your age group. Number 1, body image dissatisfaction, not happy with the way you look, the way you see yourself. Remember I said there's a difference between body image and actual physical appearance, right? So when you have body image dissatisfaction is when, because of a part of your body, your hand, your face, your forehead, your hair, your lips, your cheeks, your weight, your height, you feel like you are not good enough as a person. You are not meeting up to the standard. You are not beautiful. You are ugly. You are not good enough. That is what we call body image dissatisfaction. Number 2, fear of missing out. Has this ever happened to you? Do you know anyone who is always checking their phone? Who doesn't want to miss out on anything happening on the internet? Has it happened to you? If you have, raise your hand. Yeah? Yeah. If you can relate, raise your hands. No one can relate. Am I the only one that has fear of missing out? That's fear of missing out. Low self-esteem is what we were talking about earlier. Where you see yourself negatively, you see that you are not good enough, you believe you are not worthwhile. Another problem is overthinking, very common amongst teens. You think and think, what if, what if, what if? You go into the future that hasn't happened. And you are so in the future that you miss out on the present. Sometimes it's the past. I did so bad in that test. Why did I do this? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I act this way? Why didn't I act this way? You are in your head. And because you are in your head, you are missing out on your life, you are forgetful, you are distracted, you are not following. Perfectionism is when you feel like, if you are not perfect, if the score is not 100%, then you fail. The last one is social anxiety, when you are self-conscious. So we are all a little bit self-conscious in front of people, that's normal. But when you are so self-conscious to the point that it's affecting your life, then that's the problem. Next slide. So why are these things there? Why do they happen? Why? Number 1, could just be your personality. You could be an introvert, and there's nothing wrong with being an introvert. Extroverts get energy from people, introverts get exhausted from people. So if you're naturally introverted like me, it's fine. You're not abnormal, you're just different. The same thing is if you're naturally extroverted, if you like to be with people and people make you, you're energized and you're happy. Some people need to take some time off from people to recharge. That's fine too. So, different personality types. Being an extrovert or an introvert can make you more likely to have some of these problems. So introverts are more likely to be socially anxious. They are more likely to be conscious about their bodies. But they can happen to extroverts as well. Parental influence. So supposing you have a mom who is a superstar and is all about doing her hair, you would learn from watching your mom, for instance, that appearance is important. So this is how parents inadvertently rub off these things on people of your age. Negative peer influence. So this girl has the latest iPhone and she has a clique of people that have the latest iPhone. If I don't have that iPhone, then I'm not measuring up. Can you guys relate? Do you know whether things like this really happen today? Today? Yeah, they do. Negative personal experience. So like those 9 men I told you about in the beginning, it could be something that has really happened to you. So you're not just talking in the sky, you have had experience with maybe people being mean to you or something and saying some things and they keep saying it to the point that you believe it. So negative experience, just like the blind men I told you about in the story, could make you see things the way you see them. It could be like somebody wearing the glasses. You know, if I come in here wearing dark shades and the room is bright, will the room be bright to me? Is it because the room is not bright? It's because of what? Exactly. So some of these ways we see things is like wearing shades. To you, that is the reality, but that is not really what it is. So people, for instance, with body image satisfaction, they can see themselves as ugly, not worthwhile, but that's not true. Difference between image and actual appearance. Alright. Too much social media. The problem with social media is that people are showing the highlights of their life. And then you are here comparing it with your normal life. Is that a fair comparison? So someone is in the south of France and she takes a picture and posts it on Instagram, Snapchat, or whatever. And then you are in your home watching TV and you go through it and you're like, oh, she's having so much fun, I'm missing out, my life is boring, right? It's an unfair comparison anytime you compare somebody to yourself to somebody else. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Alright, next slide. So, number 1, body image dissatisfaction. So, I've already explained what it is. When someone is preoccupied with the way they see themselves, with how they look, and they are seeing flaws that other people don't even notice. I could have a big pimple now on my cheek, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm here to give a mental health summit, and look at this pimple, what terrible timing. And then you're sitting over there, you can't even see it, and I'm here bothering myself. So that's how real it can be. So I might think, oh, they're going to be like this doctor, what is a face like that? But you might be focusing on what I'm saying, but because I think that and believe that, I feel unhappy when you're not even thinking that, and I don't even know what is in your mind. Do you understand? Alright, that's body image dissatisfaction. Next slide. So one way to know that you have this body image dissatisfaction, if you find yourself checking too much yourself, your physical appearance. People might get ready in 30 minutes, it will take you 2 hours. You're checking your eyebrows, you're checking your weight, you're looking at the style, you're checking yourself out. You saw the picture of the girl in that initial slide. One slide back, please. Go one slide back. Yeah, okay, the picture is not, okay, you can see her checking herself out. She might spend hours there checking herself out and miss her classes and not do her homework because she wants to look a certain way. Okay, next slide. So, if you find yourself checking yourself out too much, thinking a lot about your physical body, thinking that you're worthwhile because of the way you look, then you may have BID for short. Body image. Yeah, BID for short. Next slide. The next thing we're going to talk about is FOMO, fear of missing out. Is when you think other people are having more fun, living better lives than you. Sorry? So, I have 10 more minutes. I'm going to be a bit faster. You know you gave me 30 minutes. Should I be faster? Yes. Okay. So, fear of missing out is when you think that because other people are having more fun, your life is boring. Common in 20% of teenagers. The problem with this is that you are always checking things out on social media, and then you can have social internet addiction. Next slide. So if you have FOMO, you might have these signs. You might see yourself always checking social media. You might be scheduling, weekends. You have to be there, you have to be there. You want to meet up, you want to be everywhere so that you will also meet up with expectations. It might affect your sleep, ability to concentrate because you're afraid of what you're missing. Because the sense of self is directly linked to doing what other people are doing. Next slide. So low self-esteem is when you feel like what people say, negative things people say about you is true. And when you hear it often enough, tallest when you're small, or shorty, or you're too tall, or she's so fat, fatty, or whatever, people tease you with small aspect of your body, you begin to believe it. When in actual fact it's someone's opinion. I can like coffee, for instance, and you might be a tea person. Does that make the coffee apologize for being coffee? Coffee is coffee. You like it or leave it. That's the way you are. So you are who you are, personality and all. Not everyone has to get along with you, that's fine. Those that get along with you, fine. If you don't get along with me, that's fine too. Because we all have opinions. So I can like the goosey soup, and you think okra is the bomb. Does that make the goosey soup want to be okra? Yeah, goosey is a goosey, okra is okra. Choose the one you like. Next slide. So signs you have low self-esteem is you find out that you're really, really scared of failing. You're really, really scared of, things. You worry a lot. You doubt yourself. You don't have self-confidence. Next slide. So these are some of the things that cause low self-esteem. If your sense of self depends on these kind of things, then there's a risk that it might become low. We'll talk about how to increase self-esteem and what you should base your self-esteem on. Is it academics? Is it how you look? Is it what people say? Is it what social media says? Is it what Nollywood stars are doing if you're not like them? What are the things that should determine your self-esteem? We'll talk about that really quick later. Next slide. Overthinking is when you're always in your head. Are you tired? You're tired? Okay. I'm going as fast as I can. If I go any faster, I won't be saying anything anymore. Alright, we all know what overthinking is, right? So it's common in over half, 50% of young people your age, thinking a lot about tomorrow. Next slide. So if you find yourself forgetting a lot, not being able to make decisions, being distracted easily, being pessimistic about the future, to the point where you are really anxious, then you might be overthinking. Next slide. Perfectionism. Next slide. Perfectionism is when you think that unless things are perfect, your grades, your looks, anything in your life, unless it's perfect, unless it meets up to some standard set by yourself, your parents, social media, other people, unless you meet up, then you're not good enough. That's perfectionism. Next slide. And if you notice that you're really critical of yourself, you get a B+ like the kid in that picture, and your day is ruined because it's not an A+. Then you have perfectionism. Next slide. Social anxiety is when you're very self-conscious being with people, to the point where you're really afraid that people will judge you negatively. You are more afraid of what people will say than focus on what you want to say. But the truth is, the more conscious you are and comfortable you are with yourself, the more comfortable you are in your own skin, the more people will be drawn to you. The more you don't need to, want to belong to a certain clique or want to be anything except yourself. So this is common again in girls, but it reduces as people get older. Next slide. way you carry your body also. So unfortunately, when you do this, it's a sign of social anxiety and maybe even low self-esteem, and can affect how other people treat you. Next slide. So what are you going to do? Let's get to the real meat of this slide. How are you going to cope with all the things I've said? I've said you're at risk because of the stage of life you're in. I've listed 6 different problems that you're at risk of having. So how are you going to cope? Well, it starts by paying attention to what you think. So there's a relationship between how you think, the talk, your self-talk, and how you feel. So if, for instance, I see myself as not good enough, they're not even paying attention, they are bored out of their minds, will I be happy? I won't be. I might even be discouraged. I might even want to just wrap up and run away because of what I've said to myself. You might not be thinking that, but if I think that, it affects how I feel about myself and affects what I do. So if you want to fix some of these things, everything I've mentioned, body image, dissatisfaction, fear of messing up, is all about what you think. Just like those blind men in the beginning of the story, it's all about the part of the elephant that you're touching. You may not really be seeing the whole elephant. Next slide. Core beliefs. So why do we think the way we think? The way we think are called automatic thoughts. Automatic because we don't make ourselves think what we think. We just think. It just comes to our minds, right? That's why it's automatic. So why do we think one way and some other people think another way? It all goes back to what we believe about ourselves. Core beliefs are the fundamental ways we see ourselves, and those come from what we've experienced growing up, our life history. So I can see myself as capable, I can cope. Or I can see myself as not capable, I'm not good enough. And that will affect what I think in the situation. So if I come in here with a core belief of whatever happens, I can cope. I come in here and you guys are yawning and saying, boo, boo. I'll be like, okay, that's your loss. I'm then trying to tell you how to help yourself and you don't want to learn, right? Okay. But if I come in here and feel like I'm not good enough and you are booing me, and I'll be like, oh, I really did that, I failed, I'm a failure. All because of the way I think about myself. So this is one of the ways you cope. By checking out what you're thinking. Is it realistic? Are you seeing the entire picture, the whole elephant, or are you just looking at one part of it? Next slide. So this slide shows the relationship between the actual situation, what happens. They are booing you. You came here and they are booing you. They're tired. Go away, go away. You don't want to hear anymore. That's the situation. What you think about it depends on your core beliefs. So you think, that's fine, you're lost. That's one way you can think. Or you think, oh no, I'm a failure. That's another way to think. Whatever you think is different because of your beliefs, not the situation. The situation is the same. They are booing you, boo, the same thing. But how you feel depends on what you think, which comes from your core beliefs. If you have any questions, write it down, because it's really important you get this. And the importance of all this affects what you do. Next slide. So you see this pretty girl? She has something called vitiligo. Can you see the pretty girl from there, guys? Right. So if on one hand she said to herself, I'm unique, she would feel how? Happy, confident, and her behavior, she would walk tall, shoulders back, making eye contact. But if on the other hand she feels I'm ugly, she still has vitiligo, same girl. If she thinks I'm ugly, she will feel sad. And behavior, she might cry, she might avoid school. The same vitiligo, same girl, the difference is what she thinks about herself. Next slide. So these are thinking errors. These are mistakes we make in the way we think about ourselves and other people. These are the things that make it, make us see half of the picture instead of the whole picture. This is the errors that make the blind mind think that the tail of the elephant, that the elephant was like a snake because they were only holding the tail. So I'm going to just run through them. Tunnel vision is when you see only the negative and you throw away the positive. So my best friend forgot my birthday. My best friend doesn't like me anymore. Maybe your best friend was sick, you don't remember, you consider that? Maybe your best friend, even if you forgot your birthday, how does forgetting one birthday when you remembered all the other ones mean you doesn't like me? But we think this way. You see only the negative. It's called tunnel vision. Labeling. So So because of something that happened that is negative, you give yourself a general label. I have 3 pimples on my forehead before prom. I'm ugly. So I've forgotten that I might have lovely eyes, I might have lovely lips or lovely smile, but because of one thing that's gone wrong, I say I am generally ugly. That is called labeling. Overgeneralization. I got 3 C's this term. I'm a failure. Maybe I was getting A's before. So what about the A's and the B's in the other subjects? So overgeneralization is when you use one information and you generalize and forget all the good stuff. They're all similar, but they're a little bit different. Mind reading. They are bored out of their mind. They can't wait to leave here. I might think that I'm reading your mind, but is that what you're thinking? Don't worry, I'm going to round up so that you guys can go. You're tired? Should we take a break? Yeah. All right, let's continue. Yes? The yes is raise up your hand, take a break. The no's, raise up your hand. Continue, power through, pay attention, you have a break real soon. All right, so power through this. The no's have it. If you're tired, stand up. It's okay, stand up, okay? Stand up and listen so you don't fall asleep. This is really important. If you're tired, stand up and listen, okay? Fortune telling, when you make a negative prediction without any information. This time is going to be terrible. You just come to school and you say the whole time will be terrible. It's a prediction, negative, based on what maybe the teacher, your least favorite teacher taught you and abused you the first day of class. That doesn't mean that the whole time will be terrible. Catastrophizing, very common, they all do it. So this is not only teens making these errors, everyone makes these errors, including myself. But if you become a master at detecting these errors, you feel better about yourself and other people. All or nothing thinking. If I don't look perfect, then I'm not good enough. If it's not perfect, it's terrible. If it's not an A, then it's not good enough. Next slide. So, don't believe everything you think. Just because you think it doesn't make it true. No. You might be wrong. Just like the blind men. They thought an elephant was like a snake and a rock. But they were all wrong because they saw only one aspect of the elephant. So for body image dissatisfaction, somebody might think my forehead is big, I don't measure up, I'm unlovable, nobody will ever love me, my nose is somehow, fear of missing out, my friends are having fun, my life is boring. Then you forget that your parents went for a vacation in Abuja last year. You forgot all about that because someone is in south of France and you're not there. Next slide. Low self-esteem. You measure your self-worth by the things we mentioned. Other people's opinion, the way you look, academics. We will go through what you should really do. How do you assess your sense of self? What should you do to really get a sense of how worthy you are as a human being? Overthinking. What if? And all the ifs are negative. But you don't consider that the positives have an equal chance, or maybe even more, of happening. Next slide. So, what do? You've identified the errors. You've realized that maybe you overgeneralize, maybe you catastrophize, maybe you jump to conclusions. What do you do about it? Remember I said, be like a detective. Just because you think something, does that make it true? No. You might think something and you're completely wrong. So, check out your thoughts. Ask yourself questions. So, I'm not good enough. Why do I think that? What is the evidence in favor? What is the evidence against? Evidence in favor is because I think you guys are tired and you want to go, but I want you to learn these things. Evidence against is that, I've treated people with using this and they are better. What's an alternative explanation? It could just be you've had a long day, it doesn't make me not good enough. That's how you do that. Ask yourself these questions of the thoughts that you're having. Next slide. So how do you cope with body image dissatisfaction? Supposing that is you, I described, using a part of your body to measure your whole sense of self. Well, first of all, realize that there's a difference between how you see yourself and how what really is. You might think that as you come into the room, your nose is the first thing people see, and that's not true. It might just be the way you see yourself. Realize that your body has strengths and abilities, and your body is unique. Even twins don't have the same fingerprints. Any comparison with somebody else is an unfair comparison because they didn't go through what you went through. They don't have your genes. didn't grow up in your house. They don't have your strengths. They don't have your weaknesses. So you are all different and everyone is unique. There is body diversity. So somebody might be on the plump side if you think that plumpness is a bad thing because of their genes. Maybe their tribe or their ethnicity, that's the way they are. Or maybe their family, their mom puts a certain way. Somebody is really skinny, like a really, really skinny. Body diversity. So embrace who you are and realize that we are all different. Every comparison is an unfair one. So people are posting highlights of their days and you're comparing it with your normal day. Do you think those highlights of those people happen every single day? No, it doesn't. Otherwise they wouldn't post it. So you question rather than accept social media standards. So social media and all the pressure on people's opinion, they're trying to tell you what you should be. They're trying to give you a standard. But you have a choice. You can question it. What makes that the standard? Why do I have to look this way to fit whatever standard? What happened to body diversity? Next slide. So this is what I was talking about earlier, about self-esteem. How do you gauge your sense of self? I've said that if your sense of self depends on how smart you are, how pretty you are, how popular you are on social media, then any of those things changes, you'll be in trouble. But follow these steps. Let's take them one after the other. Self-awareness. So to be able to know yourself, your weaknesses, your strengths, your talents, what you're passionate about, takes time. 30 minutes every day. How was your day? What did you like? What didn't you like? Did you really want to go to that place or you just followed your friends? Did you really like that food or your friends liked it and then you wanted to like it too? When you know yourself, then you know what you are strong in and what you are weak in. There is no one that is strong in everything. People might post online their strengths. Maybe their families are rich. That's good for them. But that might not be your strength. So your strengths, see it as a way to help the society. Remember the definition of mental health. The way you think about yourself, you are able to deal with stress, you are able to contribute to society. So see your strengths as the way you can serve people and help people, and your weaknesses as opportunity for growth. There is no one who is strength. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. So accept this. Love yourself. How? By having self-compassion. Meet your own needs. A lot of times we are looking for stuff to help us feel better. So I got an F in my test today. Of course I'm going to feel bad. Today is a terrible day. I failed my test and I read very well for it too. So I can use substances like we talked about with Dr. Sherman to make myself feel okay. Or I could self-soothe. Self-soothe means using your 5 senses to make yourself feel okay. You can use your eyes. What are the things you see that make you happy? It could be nature, it could be a picture, it could be, a comic, it could be comedy. Your ears, what are the things you hear that make you relax? It could be soothing music, it could be inspirational preaching, it could be scripture, it could be, there's some apps that play white noise. What are the things that you can taste that make you feel good? It could be a candy and you're good. So these are the things that you use to cope with these and things I'm telling you about. What are the things that you will touch and you'll be okay? Sometimes just taking cold water and putting it on your face makes you feel good. Sometimes ice cream. Sometimes a warm bowl of chicken soup or whatever. Or warm water even makes you feel better. That is the way you meet your own needs. And the way you're able to do with this, when you're able to cope with the stress, you tell yourself, good job. Don't wait for anyone to tell you. Soothe yourself, love yourself, weaknesses and strengths. Because is there anyone you know? Maybe I'm the one that doesn't know. Do you know of anyone? Let me ask this guys. Do you know of anyone who has all strengths and no weaknesses? Do you know? Do you? Raise up your hand if you know. No one knows. No one. Do you know anyone that is all strengths, does everything perfectly, doesn't have any weakness? Nobody. What about Nollywood stars? You mean Nollywood people have weaknesses too? What about Bollywood? What about our presidents? People in politics, do they have weaknesses? So if everyone has weaknesses, what is a weakness and a strength? Are they normal? Yes. It's normal to have a strength and it's normal to have a weakness. When people post their weakness, it doesn't make you any less. Next slide. So for self-esteem, you follow these steps I've said. Self-aware, realize your strengths and your weaknesses, love yourself, self-soothe, accept yourself. It's okay. Who you are is okay. You don't have to be anyone to be okay. Next slide. What about social media? What about fear of missing out? What do you do? Well, the first thing is that you take back control of your life. Don't let social media, what people are doing, wherever they're doing, dictate what you want to do. So you can just limit your social media use. You can stop comparing yourself with those on social media. You can accept imperfection. Because since we've agreed that nobody is strength, that means everybody is imperfect, right? Everybody, every single person is an imperfect work. Everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses. So the better thing to do is focus on your own life. Your life is not a comparison with somebody else. Strengthen real friendships. Online friendships are great, but they cannot be compared to the people that you can see and touch. Next slide. So what about overthinking? So real quick, people who overthink are worried about what if. What if this happens, what if that happens? Just realize that there are two major types of worries. The ones you can do something about, and the ones you can do nothing about. You can't do anything about how your whether, for instance, if I'm afraid that this roof might fall in, what if as I'm giving the lecture now, this roof falls in? Is there anything I can do about that except maybe stand here and try and... So if you can't control it, if it's outside your control or influence, then disengage from that worry and be mindful. Don't go into your mind and worry about things that are not within your control. If they are within your control, do something about it. You can plan, you can prepare, you can problem solve. If it's not within your control, then let it be. You can pray about that. You can use some of the other coping mechanisms that we will talk about when I talk about stress. Next slide. Mindfulness. So being mindful just means being in the present. We would have been able to practice this in our skill acquisition class tomorrow, but it depends on what you want. Let's wait till tomorrow. Next slide. So for perfectionism, just the way we've realized that no human is perfect, then you realize that it's unrealistic to think that unless I'm perfect, then I'm good enough. Next slide. Social anxiety. The major thing about people who are socially anxious is that they are mostly in their heads and they're not engaging in the interaction. So if I'm socially anxious, I'm thinking, what if they think this, what if they think that, they think it's not going well, and I'm so busy thinking what you might think that I lose track of what I'm supposed to be saying. So that is an internal focus of attention. When I'm focusing on what, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, I'm gonna mess up, and I'm not really, thinking about what I'm saying. So if you're socially anxious, it's better to have an external focus. Look at what you're doing. Put your mind on what you're doing and forget about what people are saying. Treat what they're saying like background noise. As we're here, there are cars driving past. But we're not listening to the cars because we're focusing here. That's the way you treat self-talk when you are socially anxious. I'll mess this up, this will be a disaster, they're going to laugh at me. Let it just be like background noise and pay attention to what is happening. Next slide. Right, this is second to the last slide. So if in all these things you have these red flags, then you know that it has gone from a problem to an illness. It's more than a mental health problem, it's now an illness. When the person starts behaving in an atypical manner, you used to be quiet, but now you're very noisy. You are easily annoyed at things that you deal with before. It means your mental health is really affected. Remember the definition of mental health, you are able to deal with stress. But if you have a low frustration tolerance, the usual stress gets in your nerves and you're irritable. Using substances, this is a red flag. It means you're using the substance to cope with whatever, any of these problems you've mentioned. You're feeling really anxious or you're really sad most of the time. And the one that is underlying is hopelessness, when you feel like there's no hope in the future. That is really important because if you feel this way, then you might become suicidal, wanting to end your life or harm yourself. Next slide, and the last slide. Right. So in conclusion, all these problems we've been talking about, they can affect teenagers. But the important thing is that the skills I've talked to you about, keeping your self-esteem up, being able to be mindful, realizing that who you are doesn't depend on anyone's opinion, social media standards. You don't have to be perfect to be good enough, because no one is. Imperfection is not. You have to know yourself, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, accept yourself, love yourself, soothe yourself when you're obsessed, using your 5 senses, what you see, what you smell, what you taste, what you hear. And if you do this and you're not getting any better, talk to your parents, talk to your counselor, talk to your teacher. There's always help. You don't have to struggle alone.